It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Keatsman. On a federal holiday, national holiday, federal holiday, what is this, Martin Luther King Day? I guess they're all, when we have holidays like this, they're all sort of federal holidays or national holidays. The whole gang in working today. It is all good as a busy weekend has transpired. And a lot's going on to start the new week, including the national championship game tonight in college football, which should be fun. We'll talk a little NFL later. Remarkable streak continues. It is now 15 years in a row. 15 straight years. Either the Chiefs or the Patriots are in the AFC championship game. And 1 year both, right? 15 years in a row. That's unbelievable. It's Patriots 2.0. They've been down for several years, but this may be what it looks like for the Chiefs, especially if Andy Reid is serious about bringing Eric Bieniemy back, which he can't be serious about. If Eric Bieniemy is so good to come back here as offensive coordinator again, somebody should hire him to be the head coach somewhere else. There's 8 jobs open. I don't hear much about Eric Bieniemy becoming a head coach. Back in Kansas City is a bad idea. Andy, you're starting to make it look like you got your feet kicked up on the desk and you're putting the band back together so you can ride off into the sunset and collect some money on your way out. That's what this is starting to feel like. We got a lot of great topics today, including the real people in danger in Minneapolis are not American citizens in their homes, which is what the left's trying to tell you. It's people out on the street among these wackos. We'll get to that coming up in about 30 minutes. We start today. I'm just in a mood to have a little bit of fun. And it was brought up to me over the weekend, and maybe you've heard this or seen a meme or a joke or something along these lines, but this is just kind of a fun one because it fits into a narrative of a couple things going on in Kansas City that has people losing their minds. The Chiefs moving to Kansas made a lot of people in this town go bonkers. It's similar to TDS, some of the reaction from some of the people. So that's happened. And the flood of stories that came out subsequent to that were mostly about, Kansas has made a bad deal. Forget that part. There were also multiple stories about, what the heck happens now with the Truman Sports Complex? We have legislators in Jefferson City that want to basically kick the Chiefs out. They want to fine them $150 million to demolish the stadium when the Chiefs move. All of these other things that are clearly not in their lease agreement with Jackson County. And the Chiefs are leaving the state. I don't know the purpose of this other than politicians grandstanding. Doesn't seem to me that would pass the muster of any real court if it were challenged legally. But we're seeing all these things happen. And it raised the big picture question. And I get emails all the time. We've had multiple calls to this show. What are we going to do with the Truman Sports Complex when they're both gone? Legitimate questions. A lot of people have called up with ideas, most of them horrible, because there are no real great ideas when the piece of property is not desirable. When two multi-billion-dollar corporations decide to leave a location, there's a reason. And the two multi-billion-dollar companies have decided to leave. So there is no great idea out there yet for the Truman Sports Complex. We can make jokes about it all day, whatever. It is a massive piece of land that the county has done great things with over the years and has been one of the most famous places in Kansas City. It never reached status of iconic because of where it's located. That's it. It's just bricks and mortar, and it's over. So somebody brought up to me last week that we've watched Mayor Q, who will not stop posting about ICE, and Manny Abarca from the Jackson County Commission. He's out making videos of ICE agents at this facility in South Kansas City where apparently the feds want to put an ICE detention center. And everybody's making a huge deal. Not in Kansas City, not in Kansas City. I got a question for Jackson County legislators. Legitimate question. You're worried about $150 million to tear Arrowhead down. You don't have a plan for the land. There is no tenant. If Donald Trump came in and said the feds want all that land as detention centers, they'll repurpose it. They'll pay for all of it. They'll pay you rent. Jackson County can be the landlord. We'll pay you, $10 million a year. for the land, the use of the land, and the federal government will repurpose it however they see fit. Would you vote no? Legitimate question for leftists in our community. Mayor Q, what would you say? Let's say it creates hundreds of jobs and puts your 1% income tax right in your coffer from these new jobs that are created. I'm sure Kansas City can get in on the grift. Maybe they'll pay some money to you too, in addition to Jackson County. Now, it sounds comical to say we're going to repurpose the Truman Sports Complex into a federal facility, but I've heard crazier things. If they're just looking at warehouses, what's the biggest warehouse there is? The indoor facility? That's a pretty big warehouse. There's a lot of things you could do out there. You could build, remember, these are temporary facilities. These are not like permanent state penitentiaries. These are ICE detention centers. What better place? The confluence of two interstate highways. The railroads are close by. The airport's not that far. This is perfect. Bring them all here at the Truman Sports Complex. Seriously, we have politicians that, as good as that would be for Jackson County financially, for the taxpayers, for repurposing the land, whatever, there is no chance they would ever approve a deal like that. There's no chance Jackson County would ever do that deal. Of course, it sounds absurd, but I'm simply making a point that that's how hardened these people are. They would, because the federal government is not going to offer this, all right? But if they did, if they were the only people offering anything, an absolute lifeline to Jackson County for that property, and said we want to open in 2030 or 2031 when the Chiefs are in Kansas, we want to open then. You're telling me you'd vote no on that? We'll just sit here and rip off the taxpayers, and the giant sucking sound you hear is money flushing down the drain because these teams have left, and they've left a giant eyesore in Kansas City behind that we don't have the money to deal with. That's where these people are. That's how crazy they are about Trump and the federal government and ICE, and it's misplaced. And now the craziness continues on a story that I saw at Tony's Kansas City today. I've been watching this for a while. KCUR is public radio. NPR. You've heard about PBS and NPR being defunded by the big, beautiful bill. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting has dissolved. They were getting billions of dollars over the years to support this left-wing news outlet in Kansas City, Channel 19 in Kansas City, and KCUR radio. And these things are all attached to government and education and all. It's all it's all gross. The whole operation's been gross because it's your money and it's my money. And this is another one of those things I don't want my money going to. I don't want it going to Somali daycares. I don't want it going to USAID. We're finding this stuff everywhere. Now at Tony's Kansas City, he's got a source quoted in there that, well, we know this is true. They were notified at KCUR about their building their studios at 48th and Troost. They were notified about 6 weeks ago, I guess, that they must be moved out by January 30th. Do you know who owns and operates all this? Just before Christmas, the University of Missouri Kansas City informed all tenants of 4825 Troost, the largest of which is KCUR and Classical KC, they must vacate by January 31st. Noman Ujayiden spoke with Lisa Rodriguez, KCUR Director of Journalism, about how the impact the newsroom and services of podcasts and shows will go forward. They're licensed at 89.3 to the University of Missouri Board of Curators. They're an editorially independent community service of UMKC, and they're gone. They're out. They got to go by January 31st. At Tony's Kansas City, word on the street is the University of Missouri's radio station is moving to Kansas. They're going to move into the building where Odyssey Corporation has radio stations in Mission, my hometown. I could sort of understand that, and if they're doing this temporarily, maybe I get it, because they would obviously have some facilities in place for them to make the transition easy. We have plenty of empty studios here at Cumulus. If somebody needed to move in here and do a radio show, they could pay rent, I'm sure. Cumulus would allow that. We take the rent money, and they would broadcast from out of here. But over all this hysteria in Kansas City about the Chiefs moving to Kansas, what if UMKC's radio station is in Kansas? What are you going to do, Missouri? What are you going to do with some of these things? Is it just are we going to let Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County become the absolute spit-sty that we see in other towns around America? Like we've seen in San Francisco, like the crime in Chicago, like we're watching in Minneapolis. Do we not care? How about St. Louis? Is that our model? Joe Buck is an announcer for ESPN. He took a picture at the airport in St. Louis this weekend, and he posted it on X, and it was empty. There was nobody there. There was not a single person in security line. He walked straight to the front, went right through security, and he put in his post, he was lamenting when St. Louis used to be a hub, and it was exciting, and it was vibrant, and it was big. And a person that posted back on his post reminded everybody in the last 30 years that St. Louis has lost 14 Fortune 500 companies, 2 NFL teams, an airline hub. They've fallen 9 spots in population in America. They're second fiddle to Kansas City, and they were once seen as the advertising capital of America, and the advertising's all gone. Ask yourself why. Of those reasons, what's the worst reason that St. Louis... Man, I remember this all too well. We felt like second citizens to St. Louis. They told us all the time that we were the baby brother, the little sister, whatever. We heard it over and over and over, and we bought into it. But we kept going, and we've surpassed it. And guess what? The NFL's not leaving Kansas City. It's not. It's just crossing a state line. Our city's going to be fine. I would argue that the 14 Fortune 500 companies, the airline hub, the population drop, the crime rates, and the advertising leaving and being second fiddle to Kansas City, they all pale in comparison to losing 2 NFL teams. The only comp here is Oakland. What do you think of Oakland? Oakland lost the Raiders I don't know how many times. They went to L.A. a couple different times. They're in Vegas now. I don't know, but what do you think of Oakland? You can laugh and say sports or the NFL doesn't matter. We're not losing our team. Look at the decline of St. Louis. Look at the blight of what that stadium will be. We better get a plan in Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County quickly to get over this and figure out what we're going to do so Jackson County and Kansas City, Missouri don't become St. Louis. It's a real thing, man. It's a real thing. And I know this. If Trump called today and said, I want to sign a lease on that land, I want all of it, they'd say, hell no. You ain't getting it. Even though it would be good for the taxpayers, good for the county, and good for the city. That's where these people are. 913-408-7957. You got the day off today. You're listening to KCMO Talk Radio. You got some spare time. Give me a call. 913-408-7957. I actually would like to hear from listeners that took the day off today. Like if your company has this as a holiday and you said, what the heck, I might as well take the day off today. What are you going to do on Martin Luther King Day that you get the day off? Or are you working today anyway? 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO. Good to have you with us on this Monday. Happy start to the week to you. 913-408-7957 is the number to call if you'd like to join the show. We're taking your phone calls. We start today with Mark. Hello, Mark. How are things in Independence these days?
Hey, it's doing all right. I live over here near Truman High School.
Yep.
Go past the stadiums, and I think of what you're saying every day. I look at that, think, well, what are they going to do? I would vote for the ICE thing, especially since they're building a new 1,000-bed Jackson County jail just around the corner. So if you vote for that, you should vote for the ICE thing if that would ever come to fruition. Secondly, you got to be rational about this stuff. Secondly, I hate to see the Chiefs go. I understand it, but I did want to say that at the same time, the Chiefs games and the Royals games did contribute to blight with parking in yards for, cheap parking, damaging property. The criminal element always came. I saw it firsthand. So if you don't manage it right out there at the Legends, it can get out of control too. I did notice some plywood up out at the Legends also when I go out there. So what I'm saying, bottom line is that the powers that be never enforced the city codes on the upkeep of property, didn't address the Adams Mark. Even the Deadgum Bridge going over I-70 has not been painted. I would have liked to have seen somebody affiliated with Jackson County to show that they had some energy and foresight, and even get on TV with a clipboard and go, you know what, I'm walking around that area, I'm making a list, taxpayers, and I'm working for you, and I'm going to have a press conference every so often, and I'm going to tell you how we're advancing with my list. And if you have anything to add to it, you call my office, because we're going to bring this area back. They should have done that long before the Chiefs issue came up.
You make a lot of great points. And look, I could envision if there were no state line here, okay, if the entire area was Missouri, let's say, I could envision the Chiefs and Royals still leaving their current facilities for another place in the city within the state, because they would have been tired of Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County. But
yes.
This is not defending them, because Jackson County screwed this thing up royally. There's no question, and the mayor hasn't done much and whatever. But it doesn't matter what they did. They were never going to get to $2.8 billion. They were never, ever, ever from day one going to match what Kansas was offering. And when that was on the table, this thing was over before it started. That's what's missing from the discussion. And all these people that have woken up now, they're like, oh, my God, $2.8 billion.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that was the number all along. They said 70%. They had to spend at least $1 billion. Well, what'd you think they were going to spend?
Yes, I want to add to it. What's interesting about all this is you call up on any talk show in town with any so-called expert or politician, and you ask, okay, especially with the Dome Stadium, utilities are going to be super high, and you got AI going on and extra regulation, electricity and energy efficiency, and all this stuff boiling in the pot, just raising costs to taxpayers and utilities. But you ask them then, with that in mind, who's paying for the daily operating costs? Things like heating and air, painting, maintenance, security.
Yeah,
they don't have that worked out.
They don't, and there's going to be some local issues there. I mean, we've obviously got Olathe and reportedly Lenexa Shawnee involved. We've got the Wyandotte County Unified Government. We don't know what their responsibilities are going to be or what this is going to be. What we know at this point is Kansas has offered $2.8 billion to build the darn thing, and there is no other option. There's no other option. Kansas City without an NFL team is not Kansas City. I'm telling you, there is nothing more important than keeping this football team. There just isn't. And I've been around this sport for 40 years. I've watched what it means to people that live here. Not just that, but quality of life by having this team here. It maybe we don't like it when things are bad, whatever. It defines our city. When you travel outside of Kansas City, the first thing they ask you about is the NFL and the Chiefs. Where the hell's St. Louis? I mean, that city just has disappeared. They lost the NFL. They lost 2 NFL teams, and they're just off the map. St. Louis is like, it's like Peoria, Illinois at this point. Nobody ever talks about or thinks about St. Louis. It's ridiculous, and I don't want Kansas City to be that. Yes,
and their city government doesn't help them either with the liberal rules that they have.
Well, sure, but we got the same problem here.
Stupid things. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
There was no viable option for the Cardinals or the Rams to move to Illinois. If there'd been a viable option to cross the state line and go to Illinois, St. Louis would probably have the NFL, but there was no viable option. So, in a way, Kansas may have saved the whole city.
It could be. We're still going to see how it turns out. Now, they project all this stuff in a static economy. AI is coming in. So that's what's going to be interesting, too, when people have less money to spend and they got to scurry around, maybe even move because they've lost their job.
You're putting the cart.
There's going to be a lot of things going on.
I got to run, man. I'm up against a break. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call. I'm sorry. I got to hit this break here in just a few seconds. That's too much. I don't care about AI, and you don't know what the economy is going to be in 2031. You're sitting here telling me how the economy is going to be in 2031. We don't know. And I don't know what my cost is yet on this stadium. I'm a Kansan. I don't see the cost yet. Until I buy a ticket or go there, I don't know what it's costing me. Right now, I live in a state that has a massive surplus. They don't seem to know what to do with it. We are overtaxed and have much bigger problems than those star bonds. They need to get to work in Topeka and lower our income taxes. Do that. Start there. Lower our income taxes. We'll worry about the rest. No holiday for the crazy people in Minneapolis. They'll be out in full force today. In fact, a holiday is just another reason. Well, do they know it's a holiday? Well, yeah, they probably know this holiday. There's not much difference between a regular workday and a holiday, from what I can tell, for the agitators in Minneapolis. And we had a lot of turns for the worse over the weekend, including they've now found some fireworks apparently stashed in a warehouse somewhere and decided they're going to launch fireworks at federal buildings, which is an awful lot of fun. I mean, if you're going to have a good time, wait till it's dark. You don't like the feds. You don't like ICE. Let's go shoot fireworks at federal facilities. They can't arrest enough of these people for me. And then Don Lemon decides he's going to go into a church with a bunch of agitators, which is, they make a decent point. They say, well, your church is open to all and it's a public space. Okay. They go in, they disrupt service at this church in St. Paul where they believe the pastor is affiliated with ICE. When you're asked to leave and you don't, you are then trespassing, and at the very least, you're disturbing the peace. I'm not sure. I need a toll. I need a count on how many people we're arresting. Why are we not arresting like all of these people? At the very least, misdemeanors, $500 fines, whatever, to make their life a little more complicated. I'm not sure I understand. And Don Lemon embedded with the agitators is just strange to me. So he goes around, he starts asking questions of people who support Trump and tries to make them look like fools. I get it. I know the game. I see how that's played. But I don't see anybody in the mainstream media around a Hilton Doubletree Hotel in St. Paul where a new media journalist, I think his name is Jesse, it might be Jesse Rodriguez, is basically his own man on social media. And he went to the Hilton Doubletree and tried to check in. And they said, yeah, we're not taking any customers today. Then he asked to confirm, are you kicking government employees out? Because it had been reported. They wouldn't say, but they saw a lot of them leaving, and government employees are leaving the hotel saying, yes, they've been kicked out of the Hilton Doubletree. This is ICE and Border Patrol mainly, but if you work for the federal government, you're out. Everybody else at the hotel was told they could stay through their stay, but the hotel is closing because somehow it's become a target of these agitators. The agitators found out there were federal employees staying at the Hilton Doubletree in St. Paul, and the Hilton Doubletree St. Paul has to close. Now, here's what they should do. The Trump administration should call the hotel and say, we would like to reserve the entire hotel the next month. Every room. We're going to make it our HQ, and we'll fortify the outside. We'll take care of outside. This is just going to be our government headquarters. We'll rent every room at whatever the rate is, and let's go. So these agitators are getting too many wins, is my point. If they're closing hotels, if they're closing church services, this can't be tolerated. You just can't. You cannot allow them to affect private businesses that are afraid to be open because the government employees are there. And you certainly cannot allow them into places of worship to disrupt wonderful church-going services on a Sunday morning because they're mad at ICE and they think somehow the pastor's involved with ICE. I don't know that he is or isn't. I'm just saying that's what they thought, and so they went there. Now, I just don't get this. Now the Democrats are threatening a government shutdown. January 30th is the last working day. Remember when we had the shutdown and they came up to an agreement? It was a stopgap. It was, I don't know how many days it was. Was it 90 days? Some 60 days? Whatever it was, it expires January 30th. And the Democrats are now saying, we're just going to shut the government down until you have ICE stand down. Wait, until you stop enforcing the law, we're going to close the government. You must stop enforcing the law. If you keep following the laws of America, we're going to close the government on you. That's the Democrat Party. That's all they're doing is enforcing the law. But you notice when other presidents have done this at the border, it's one thing. Trump's gone inland. He's gone everywhere. He's mostly gone into our major cities and said we're cleaning them out. Crime is down dramatically over the last year. I even hear Democrat mayors like Jacob Fry trying to take credit for it. How in the world can he take credit for lower crimes when Trump's rounding up all these people in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and detaining them, deporting them, convicting them, whatever it may be? It's not, unfortunately for Jacob Fry, it's not his city and his police department that are doing this. These numbers are way down, and it's a good thing. And we enjoy seeing that. And we want to see that over and over and over. But now the Democrats are threatening to shut our government. They're going to shut the government down for everyone because one party's enforcing the law. Well, we can't follow these laws. Remember, Democrats voted for these laws too. Every federal immigration law in the books was bipartisan. All of them. And so this is what we get. Let's go back to the phones. I think we got Stu in Rosedale this morning. Hi, Stu. What's going on in your world, buddy?
Hello, Kevin. Well, all I have to offer is just
something I remember hearing in Minnesota when I spent some time there in the 70s. You can file this under that was then and this is now. Back then, Minnesota seemed to be immune from the climate of protest that was kind of pervasive in the country in the 70s. And somebody up there remarked to me and said, well, 20 below tends to keep out the riffraff. And it made a lot of sense. But apparently that statement is no longer operative.
Well, they found the Somalians especially found a perfect place to go and conduct their shenanigans. It's pretty obvious that once Minnesota turned left, this was the place for them to go thrive. And yeah, it's cold and it stinks sometimes. Their summers are gorgeous. But it's pretty easy to see how this all happened now in hindsight. And we believe it's happened in a lot of cities, and we're going to find a lot of this same kind of fraud. But the one thing I don't have confidence in the Trump administration is prosecuting any of these people. I just don't see people going to jail like I want to. I see illegal. Look, he's been focused for a year on illegal alien criminals, okay? And we've gotten a lot of them off the streets. A lot of them have gone home on their own, and a lot of them are detained. And we're a safer, better country today for that. But we need to get to the root of the problem, as Kamala Harris would say, the root causes. Well, the root causes of all this was all the corruption within the Democrat Party. We got to get these people. We got to find out, was Tim Walz involved? Ilhan Omar, Trump's talking big about Ilhan Omar, but I don't see him cuffing her. You know she's involved in this Somalia ripoff. She was making nothing. She's worth $30 million. So you know she is involved in the ripoff. There's no question she's involved in that. You got to prove it. You got to get her out of here and deport her or something.
Trump needs to have an attorney general who is first and foremost a prosecutor.
That would be great. That would be great. It does seem like a weak link, Stu.
Yeah, accept.
All right, buddy. Good call. Appreciate you, man. Pam Bondi seems like a weak link to me and has from the day that he hired her. I need somebody that's completely quiet, out of sight, and an absolute ball buster. That's what I need. Todd Blanche is there. He was Trump's personal attorney and all these things they came after him with. You don't hear him talking much. You don't see him out there. Maybe he should be the guy. I don't know. Maybe behind the scenes he is and they're quietly doing all this. I'd like to think that's the case, but I don't know. I know the real danger in Minnesota right now is with the journalists on the street because they're being targeted. Nick Sorter and Cam Higbee. Nick Sorter's a new era, new age journalist. He goes out and videos things, puts it up on social media. He's got a whole bunch of followers. He's making a difference. Nick Sorter and Cam Higbee get surrounded by a mob of agitators this past week. Their vehicle was vandalized. They were threatened to be killed. His camera was stolen from him. He was shoved, and they took his camera from him. It's worth over $1,000. And Sorter and Higbee posted this, but they're not making a big deal out of it. They're not like, okay, we're whatever. But this is different. This wasn't the people that you see demonstrating the white people problem that they have in Minnesota. On behalf of the Somalians, guess what this was? Oh, this was a group of Somalians that attacked them. Surrounded them and attacked them because they were following what they were doing on social media in all the reporting about the Somali fraud. Folks, it's getting more dangerous, and the danger is going to come from desperate Somalis that believe they're going to jail. That's where the real danger is going to come from. And Nick Sorter got shoved and his camera stolen, the whole deal. It reminded me of something that happened to myself and a wonderful guy, our sports photographer, Don Proctor, who's now retired from Fox 4. In 1994, we were covering the Missouri Tigers in Los Angeles, the old LA Sports Arena. And Missouri was in a 1 seed that year in the NCAA tournament. I think they beat Syracuse, and I know they lost to Arizona. We land at LAX, and we go to the baggage claim to get our suitcases because we're going to be there quite a while. You can be there as long as like 6 nights, right? But we carried our camera. In those days, these things were called Ikegamis. That was the brand of the camera. And these things were between $30,000 and $40,000 each. And Proctor would carry his camera. It never went out of his sight. You didn't check it. It was just like he never let go of the camera. So he's carrying the camera through the airport. We've landed. We get to the baggage carousel. We're right up against the baggage carousel, standing next to each other, and the camera's on the ground between our feet as we're waiting for our bags to come. And a guy runs up behind us and knocks us both onto the baggage carousel, grabs the camera, runs out the door, throws it into like a, best way to describe it is like a Ford Lincoln Town Car or something, a black sedan, drops it in the window of the sedan, runs the other way, the car races off, our camera's gone. We called the LA police, and they said, well, the whole world is here with these expensive cameras for the Menendez trial. Remember the Menendez brothers? So this would have been March of 94. This was the first trial, the one that was the hung jury. And they said that we were like the 32nd or 33rd camera that had been stolen. And it was all the same way. And we're like, well, why aren't you patrolling the airports? How come we don't know this? Why has there not been like something sent to every TV station in the country? When coming to L.A., these people are going to steal your cameras. Why were they stealing cameras? He said it's long gone by now. They part them out and they send them to Colombia, the country, and make porn with them. That was the ring they were working on. They said, sorry, we can't get your camera back. We both thought we were fired. Different time and place, because it sounded like an outlandish story. It sounded like something we made up, but journalists get targeted. In that period of time, it was nothing we had done. They were targeting the value of that camera. They wanted to steal it, and they got away with it. Airport security was completely different in those days. But now they're going after Nick Sorter and Cam Higbee in Minneapolis because these are the guys exposing all this Somali fraud and things that are going on. It's going to get dangerous. They're trying to intimidate and threaten these reporters. Meanwhile, Don Lemon's embedding himself with the agitators and going into churches. Boy, if we don't have the opposite ends of the spectrum in this country on these things, I give up because I can't hardly even believe it. Can't believe it. Quickly before we break and then come back with Mark on some football, Scott Bessent did some of the Sunday shows yesterday. They're about to unload on Denmark with this Greenland thing. I didn't know this till yesterday. I didn't know this. Did you know they sterilized indigenous people of Greenland, women, into the 1990s? When they were young and went to the gynecologist and got treatment and health care through Denmark, living in Greenland, these are indigenous people. They look like what we would call Native Americans. The young ladies, unbeknownst to them or their family or anyone, they put IUD birth control in them. A woman named Amarok Peterson says, I've never been able to have children. I had uterine problems. I went to a doctor, and he said, wow, you've got something in you. Did you know? No, I didn't know it was in there. They've sterilized these people. They've sent kids out of Greenland to Denmark as kind of like a great reassignment to become a Dane. It's called the Great Dane Kid Experiment or something. Denmark has not been good to Greenland, folks. Don't start in on Trump with Greenland. They need us. Denmark's been a bad, bad partner, and there is no charter. Trump says there's nothing. They just landed the first boat there hundreds of years ago and claimed it. That there's no contract between Greenland and Denmark. There's nothing. I say go get it. All right, Uncanceled continues in a moment. We got a national championship game tonight. That's awesome. Mark's Seattle Seahawks were the best team this weekend. It's all next on KCMO. Mark, I was driving down 87th Street on Saturday morning around 11:30, heading west, getting near 435 in Lenexa, and the crazies were out on all four street corners.
Oh, I think Pete's wife saw that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I pulled up the red light, and a lady 10, 12 feet away is just screaming at me. She can't see me. I'm on the driver's side. She's on the other side, out to the right. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? How do you know that? Like, they just assume that we all hate them. They're right. But they just assume that now when the cars pull up because everybody's giving them the finger and, everything else. Yeah. So I roll my window down, and she just keeps screaming. I said, ma'am. I said, wait. Do you believe violent criminals belong in jail or out here among us? And she just keeps screaming, ICE out. I said, ma'am, do that. And her response was this. Do you beat your wife? That was her response. I'm like, no, but if I did, do I belong in jail or out here among us? And she walked away. They're crazy, man. I don't know. The craziest thing I saw this weekend was the Seattle Seahawks just destroying the San Francisco 49ers. Nobody's talking about that game because it was no fun to watch except for you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was actually picking up some pizza for the family, and I heard the first touchdown on the radio, and I was like, man, that could be the only touchdown they need. And then it ended up being the only touchdown they needed. The only touchdown they needed is true. Okay, did anybody else notice that the Broncos and the Rams won in identical fashion?
Their opponent got to overtime, won the coin toss, deferred, held them 3 and out. They punted. The team that won the coin toss threw an interception. Then they got the ball back, and they kicked a field goal to win.
Yeah.
Both games were identical.
That's crazy.
It was a great weekend of football.
It was.
Seattle game notwithstanding, that was not a whole lot to look at. Who do you like in the NFL that's left? Who do you think is going to win this thing? Like all the way?
I think it's going to be the Seahawks.
Seahawks are
Their
it.
defense is just too good.
Seahawks are it. There it is. Matthew Stafford a month ago threw for 457 yards at Seattle.
It's true.
It is
Seahawks
true.
won the game, though.
Yeah, he did lose the game, no doubt. How about Harrison Mevis of the Rams?
Thicker kicker, baby.
The thicker kicker, the pride of Mizzou. That's so awesome. Were you scared for him when he trotted out there last night?
Not too scared. He's hit some big kicks.
This is all new to him. The guy was in the UFL or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, but in college he made some big kicks.
No, he's never kicked anything like that
Not
last
like
night.
that, but especially out in the snow.
I was terrified for him. I'm going to bet a lot of Missouri fans were terrified for him, too.
Yeah.
Because it was the kind of thing that if you miss it, you may not be on the team next year.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's really how you're defined. You know, these kickers are all pretty good. It's going to be how do you perform in the toughest, most pressure-filled spots. Harrison Butker's been great at that. You know, our biggest beef with Butker is the missed extra points, isn't it?
Yep.
Right? Those don't add up. Way to go, Harrison Mevis, the pride of Mizzou. Tonight, we have Indiana and Miami in the College Football National Championship game. Indiana's a big favorite. They spent $64 million of Mark Cuban and John Mellencamp's money to load their roster up with a bunch of old guys. They're the oldest team in college football, and they're a big favorite over Miami. They've been unstoppable. They're going to keep this up, are they not?
I think so. I think they win by double digits.
And you think Mendoza easily goes number 1 now in the draft.
I think so.
And that's the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough, man.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for him.
No, that's tough for the Chiefs. I'm thinking about the division. This division's gotten hard.
Yeah.
You know, the Chiefs had a really great run when the division was down. Not to say that the Chiefs weren't great. That's not it. But if you look back at the Patriots and all of the winning that they did through the years, it was typically that division was just awful.
Yeah.
Got to go abuse your division. Denver's lost its quarterback for this week's game. The Vince Show's coming up next, folks. Thanks for joining us. Hope your week's getting off to a great start. I appreciate you listening to Uncanceled every single day on KCMO.